There's a smell you never forget. Charcoal, wood smoke on cold night air. For one man, that smell would come to mean the worst thing he ever did. He had promised he would die before he let it happen. He said it out loud in front of everyone. And a few hours later, standing by a fire in a courtyard, he said 3 times that he had never even met the man he loved most. There's a version of this story a lot of people half remember. A rooster, some tears. And then somewhere down the line, it all works out. We tend to leave it there and move on. But I don't think this is a story about a beach at the end. I think it's a story about the days in between, the ones nobody talks about. Because here's the part that stopped me cold. When the moment finally came to meet Peter again, he wasn't taken somewhere new. There was a fire, the same kind of fire. The exact thing he could not stop seeing every time he closed his eyes. Why would you do that? Why walk a broken man straight back into the worst night of his life? I went looking for the answer. It was hiding in a second fire. Start before the fall. It only hurts if you see how high he stood. This isn't the story of the man who sold him and walked off into the dark. That's a different man, a different night. This is the story of the one who swore he never would. And Peter meant it. When Jesus warned them they would all scatter, Peter didn't just say, "Not me." He said more. "Even if everyone else falls away, I won't. Even if I have to die with you." He put his whole name on it, out loud in front of the others. "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." That's the height, remember it. Before the rooster crows today, you will deny 3 times that you know me. Then the night turned, torches in the garden. The arrest, the friend he had promised to die for, dragged off into the dark. And Peter followed. At a distance, close enough to see, far enough to deny. There was a fire of coals in the courtyard, people warming their hands. Peter also was standing with them, warming himself. Peter stood there too, trying to look like no one, trying to disappear into the light of a fire that kept showing his face. A servant girl looked at him. "You were with him too." And the man who said he would die came apart in a single sentence. "I don't know him." A second voice. "I don't know what you're talking about." A third, and he swore it. "I don't know the man." 3 times, each one a little easier than the last. That's the part we don't say out loud. How fast the thing we swore we'd never do becomes a thing we're already doing. And then a rooster crowed. Again, Peter denied it, and at that moment, a rooster began to crow. But it wasn't the rooster that broke Peter. Across the courtyard, through the smoke, the bodies, the noise, Jesus turned and looked at him. That's all. He didn't shout. He didn't point. He didn't say a single word. On the worst night of his own life, he turned his head and found the eyes of the man who had just denied him 3 times. And in that one look, Peter remembered all of it. The promise, the table, every road they had walked together. 1 second and the whole of it came back. Peter went out into the dark and wept like a man who had just buried someone. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Because in a way he had just buried the person he thought he was. And then the night just went on. No voice, no sign. Nothing came after him. Here's where the story usually skips ahead. Don't skip. The cross came, the burial. And then days later, an empty tomb. That should have changed everything. And it did, except for one thing. It didn't reach inside Peter. So picture the mornings instead. He has gone back to the only thing he knew. The boat, the nets, the water, out all night, and nothing. So they went out and got into the boat. But that night they caught nothing. He hauls the nets up in the gray light, and they come up empty, dripping, heavy with nothing at all. And then he does it again. And the smell is always there. Somewhere on the shore, a cooking fire, charcoal, wood smoke drifting over cold water. And just like that, he is back in the courtyard, hands out to the flames, hearing it again, not someone else accusing him, his own voice. I don't know him. The empty net at first light, the smell of the fire, his own words coming back. Every morning hands him the same 3 things, and every morning he takes them, like a sentence he has agreed to serve. No one had to tell Peter he was finished. He had already decided. He had stood in front of the thing he broke and concluded the way back was closed. Not because anyone shut it, but because he had stopped believing it was open for him. He had stopped watching the shore. He wasn't waiting for anything from the light anymore. As far as he was concerned, the story was already over. And then one ordinary morning, there is a figure on the shore and a fire. Not a new one, a fire of coals, the same smell, the same low light. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. The exact thing Peter had been running from every morning, lit on purpose, on the beach at dawn, waiting for him. And Peter doesn't understand it. Of all places, why this one? He had spent days bracing for a reckoning, and here it finally is. The coals, the smoke, the cold light before sunrise, and the only thing louder than the silence is the question he still can't answer. Why bring a man back to the worst night of his life? And there is no "you denied me." No, "I warned you." Just a question. "Simon, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord, you know I do." And then again, "Do you love me?" Peter's voice is starting to shake. He doesn't know why it's being asked twice. Yes. And a third time, "Do you love me?" And the third one cuts, because somewhere in it, Peter hears the echo. 3 times by a fire, he had said one thing. Now by a fire 3 times, he is being asked the other. No one spells it out, no one explains it. It just lands in the body exactly where the wound already is. And now Peter waits for it, the verdict. The part where he is finally told what his failure cost him, the words he has been saying to himself for days, about to be said out loud. He can smell the smoke. He can feel the cold coming off the water. He keeps his eyes down on the coals, the way you do when you can't look up. And he braces for the sentence. Here it comes. It never comes. Instead, "Feed my sheep. Take care of the people I love. Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." The same hands that had denied him only nights before were now handed everything. The work, the people, the whole future. Go. He came for a verdict. He was given a mission. Years later, an old man now, Peter would still catch charcoal on the air and be back in that courtyard for a second. The memory never left him. Because it had stopped meaning the night he failed. It had come to mean the morning he was handed his life back. At the same fire, in the same cold light, in the one place he was sure he never could be. That is why it had to be the same fire, not a new shore. Not a clean start somewhere the past couldn't follow. The exact place he swore he'd never return to was the place that had to change. So before you go, one question. What is your second fire? The place you won't look at. The morning that keeps handing you the same memory. The thing you've quietly decided you're finished over. Peter was just as certain his story was over. He had braced for the end of it. He was handed the beginning instead. It wasn't the end.